Tell your fortune, sir. The future predicted, your life foretold.
Oh, no thanks.
Don't you want to know if you're going to be happy?
Well, I'm happy right now, thanks.
You're from Yorkshire. The reading's free for Yorkshiremen.
Oh, now you're talking. All right then.
Oh, fascinating. I can see a man, a most remarkable man. How did you meet him?
You're supposed to tell me.
I see the future. Tell me the past. When did your lives cross?
It's sort of complicated. I joined a forum to talk about missing episodes. Long story.
But what led you to become a podcaster?
All sorts of things. Being a fan, coming from Yorkshire and liking the sound of my own voice.
This podcast of yours, Something Who, what choices led you there?
There was a choice because I was already appearing on the Grumpcast. But there was this other idea. Some friends on the forum.
Paul, he's called. Paul Morris? He writes audio dramas for Big Finish. Very rarely mentions them.
I'm on a podcast.
As a guest, this will be your own podcast, Richard, with at least several listeners.
People know the Grumpcast. It's fun, so stop it.
Your life could have gone one way or the other. What made you decide?
I just did.
But when was the moment? When did you choose?
It won't take long. Just click right, chat with Paul.
I'm clicking left. If you don't like it, hang up.
If you click right, you'll have a podcast, not just a guest slot.
You think I'm so useless.
Oh, I know why you want to be a guest on the Grumpcast. Because you think you'll get downloaded by someone with lots of money and your whole life will change. Well, let me tell you, media executives don't need guest hosts.
Yeah, well, they haven't heard me.
You clicked left. But what if you clicked right? What then?
What's that? What's on my back?
Make the choice again, Richard, and change your mind. Click right.
I'm clicking.
Well, let me tell you, media executives don't need guest hosts.
Yeah, suppose you're right.
Click right and change the world.
Hello and welcome to Something Who episode 24. After we gave you a virus episode a few weeks ago, today we're bringing you our Britain in Lockdown special with Third Doctor story Invasion of the Dinosaurs and Doctor-lite story Turn Left. So there's one bit of business from a previous episode to finish off. To coincide with our Jeremy Bentham episode, I bought a second-hand version of his book Doctor Who The Early Years, and I'm giving it away to a listener who can answer this question. What fruit did Jeremy say Patrick Troughton bounced against the wall in Power of the Daleks? If you send the answer to our email address, somethingwho@gmx.us, I'll pick randomly one person to receive the book. And I'll put the email address in the notes that accompany this episode on your podcast app. So today we've got a full house of contributors. So, hello Simon.
Hello Richard. Hello everyone.
Hello Giles.
Hello, everybody.
Hello Paul.
Good evening.
And returning to the podcast, here's Andrew Ireland, creator of this University of... let's try that again. creator of this University of Central Lancashire's remake of Mission to the Unknown. Hello Andrew and welcome back.
Hello everyone, good to be back.
Excellent. It's also a year since our first podcast of Something Who. Yeah, it only feels like about 12 months to me.
Wow, time has flown.
But anyway, down to business. Invasion of the Dinosaurs to start off with. So that's the one with the terrible puppets. But of course, it's much more than that. Season 11. It's towards the end of Pertwee, written by Malcolm Hulke, directed by Paddy Russell, and it's got some great elements in it: deserted city, double agents, an underground bunker. Giles, this was your pick. Do Do you want to tell us why you picked it?
I guess I picked it just because living in central London and occasionally cycling to nearly abandoned supermarkets in the middle of the city in order to combine my mandatory exercise hour with getting to shopping. I was cycling back past the Tower of London, one morning, and thought, bloody hell, this is just like Invasion of the Dinosaurs. So that was the inspiration, if you can call it that.
Very good. So who wants to start us off with some thoughts about Invasion of the Dinosaurs?
I was going to be bursting with things to say if I'd actually written them in notes down while I was watching it. I was very excited. It was much better than I remembered it being, which is not to say I ever thought it was a duffer. I think even from the first time... I think when I was younger, the fan opinion... We've talked about these fan opinions before, haven't we? You know, the gunfight has been the worst story ever and all that sort of thing. I think it was very badly thought of, but not in my experience. But this time I was very impressed with it. I'm not going to say anything about the deserted London aspects. I just think as a 6-part Doctor Who story, it's one of the tightest I've seen. That's what I want to say. The 6 parts have a reputation for being oddly constructed, don't they? They tend to either have a slump in the middle or a bit of a bump at the beginning or end. But here, Malcolm Hulke has, I've tempted to say for once, he's got enough material to fill his 6 parts. He's got more ideas than he needs, really. And he paces them out. He keeps bringing in new ideas as we go along. There's no need for any filler or padding. There's none of this locking up, running down corridors, escaping, getting captured again stuff. It's just it paces its mysteries, keeps adding new mysteries rather than quicker than it solves the existing ones. And I just found it a thoroughly entertaining 6 times 25 minutes. So that's what I think.
Okay, Andrew?
I think it's got a lot going for it. I think the thing which sticks in my mind the most is Mike Yates, because I think I'd almost go as far as saying that what happens to him and his character in this episode, or set of episodes, is like the first time in the series really we got a real, genuinely sort of surprising twist of a character that we've known up until that point.
Yeah.
So I think it's multi-layered, and his character's definitely like 3-dimensional, and probably one of the first examples you can think of in Doctor Who of a character going through that kind of arc, if you like, which continues into Planet of the Spiders too. So for that, I think it's very memorable, and also the setting. I think it's eerie, atmospheric, and it sells the concept of a deserted London well. So yeah, good thumbs up from me.
I think what's interesting about that Mike Yates reveal is that it works particularly well because we've known him for so long, and it really pays off the 5 years of this unit family. By this point, I think some people were starting to criticise the coziness of the unit years, how it's all got a bit ill-disciplined and long-haired compared to season 7 action heroics. But because we've got to know these as people rather than just as soldiers and plot devices, it really does hit home, doesn't it, when one of them turns out to have opinions and moral conflict. I was going to ask... I mean, does it come out of nowhere for Mike, or has he shown these sorts of instincts before? I was thinking the Green Death would have been a good place for him to surface if he has shown any sort of ecological tendencies. Does anyone remember?
Yeah, he's a sort of perennial fall guy almost, isn't he? He's always getting knocked out and captured, and then he gets brainwashed in the Green Death, and in the Green Death he was surrounded by ecological issues, wasn't he? So maybe that sowed some seeds.
Even before that, in Day of the Daleks, when he takes a glass of wine from Joe Grant, doesn't he? Snuffles that down.
Steals Benson's sandwiches.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but I think people you've reminded me of something there, because I don't remember him commenting specifically on the ecological side of the Green Death. I don't remember him expressing his sympathies with the people at the Nuthatch. That's all Joe Grant's side of the story. But people used to say, fans used to read this as his actions in Invasion of the Dinosaurs are a follow-on from him being brainwashed by the computer in Green Death. But I don't think there's any... Are there any hints? Is there anything remotely explicit about that?
I think that left him. That probably if someone's been brainwashed, that might leave them susceptible to influences, and someone might have got inside his head and sold him this golden future and the golden age.
Yeah. Well, maybe it
I think it cheapens it to think that, really. I think it's much better for him as a character to think that he actually made his own decision, and for his own reasons got sort of sidetracked or swept along by all that Operation Golden Age stuff.
I think he did. When it was first introduced in episode 2, and in fact I am going to now mention something that's relevant to the theme, he's commenting on how in the deserted London, the sounds of birds, nature's returning, the birds' songs.
Yes.
And it's a nice little
Fox in
moment.
Piccadilly.
And it's quite subtly written, because if you don't know where it's going, it's not a big red flag that there's something up with Mike. You just think, yes, interesting perspective. What a thoughtful, intelligent chap. And of course we're all thinking that at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking perhaps Terrance Dicks might have stuck something in one of his, monster books or something like that, or maybe one of the novelizations to suggest a link up, but I can't see it in the story.
That could explain it, couldn't it? So rather than being a complete invention by fans, perhaps it's from the ancillary material.
Yes, it feels like something that was stuck at the back of my mind, that there was more of an explicit link. I must have picked it up from somewhere.
But as Andrew says, if it's there at all, I'd rather it wasn't used as a blanket explanation for Mike. I much prefer the idea that he's did to have this wistful soul hiding down there.
And it's interesting that actually through the course of the story he's dragged in it bit by bit, isn't it? I mean, to start off with, he's acting from the best of motives, and he's just disabling the thing to stop the dinosaur being sent back, and then bit by bit he gets dragged further and further into the mire by the other people in the organisation.
Yeah, tragic in a way. That's drama, conflict. It's good.
Yeah.
I always enjoyed. I saw this story when it was broadcast, and one of my favourite memories was that Tyrannosaurus being chained down in the aircraft hangar and then menacing Sarah and smashing up the office. That was really good. That was very memorable. It worked much better when you just saw parts of the dinosaurs rather than standing up and wobbling along streets. But it's not too bad at all. If that doesn't stand up to screen, there are other things like, I don't know whether they called it this, but the time scoop and all of those time effects, those are very clever. There's plenty of action and excitement and good cliffhangers, and the one that really had me on my toes all the way through it was, would anyone at the unit base dare to ask Sarah Jane to make a cup of tea or a cup of coffee? And in the end, the RT operator had to make everyone around a tea. But it's a cracking Liz Slade and Sarah Jane story as well. She's really strong all the way throughout that story. And, she does a great job.
I think the scenes where like you say, where the T-Rex is chained down in that warehouse place, whatever it is, I think that they work really well. And actually, even though people take lots of pop shots at the poor old dinosaurs, there's some nice close-ups there of like the dinosaur lying there with his eyes closed, opening and closing again. It's well done, and like you say, it works better when you see parts of the dinosaurs or glimpses, and they're not waddling along, but they're still. But yeah, it's ambitious, and it just does it. It just tells the story, and it gets on with it, and it's big and bold, which is good. And Doctor Who is always good when it's big and bold. It doesn't always quite reach what it's trying to do, but in a way that doesn't matter, because it's reaching for it, so you can reward and savour the ambition.
I think you can see why they thought it was worth a stab. Is the idea that Barry Letts was impressed with the Drashigs from Carnival of Monsters and was persuaded that you could scale that up and do proper dinosaurs?
Oh, yes, I think so. That rings a bell. That he was sold on the idea that they could pull this off.
But these aren't glove puppets, are they?
No, so I'm not quite sure. Maybe it wasn't the Drashigs, but I mean that could explain why it's not a success. Person who was really good at glove puppets told him, we can do dinosaurs, and then did it in a completely different way.
Well, the thing is, and it's got this reputation, but I personally, as something of a dinosaur nerd, I think they're not bad with the one exception of the T-Rex.
Yeah.
When it's vertical, when it's
Yes.
kind of doing its thing. I think the Brontosaurus is pretty
That's
good,
all right.
and the Stegosaurus is pretty good.
Yeah.
The Triceratops is a bit ropey, but
That's
all
what
things
everybody always
considered,
says, though, isn't it? And I was looking out for this time because that's something you go into the story knowing that the T-Rex is the one with the problem, and it seems to be worse constructed as a model, maybe because it's more is being asked of it, but it looks less convincing. The others.
Yeah.
It just looks like it's been made by somebody, a completely different person from whoever made the more successful models. Oh, and
I mean,
has
for
anyone
me
mentioned the
it's-
fact that when they cut to the close-up, there's a second puppet for the close-ups of the head, which is
Right.
approximately 1,000 times better than
which is so much better.
the
Yes,
full-size one.
yeah.
And they use it so sparingly. It's well, there you go. I try to avoid going on and on about the production problems, but it makes the same mistakes every story, doesn't it?
The Target novelisation had those brilliant illustrations. I think it's Pertwee fighting off the pterodactyl,
Yeah.
and then disappointingly the pterodactyl in the workshop, and then down in the tube station. That wasn't. It just doesn't live up to those fantastic bits of artwork.
And it doesn't say clack either, does it?
Yes. I was just going to say, it's funny, there were some directorial choices that you would think when they knew what they were working with, because it comes very close to, and I know there's all this, people fantasize occasionally about redoing it with CG dinosaurs and so on and so forth, and I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I think the puppets stand up as creatures, most of them, apart from, obviously there have been changes in how we've seen dinos since then, and probably T-Rex has been the most affected of the ones that we get in here, in terms of how it looks like a completely different creature from what a realistic T-Rex of 1973 would have looked like. But I do think there's some odd directorial choices where you just think, if you just shot that slightly differently, you could have avoided that awkward shot. I mean, there's no reason why we have to see the T-Rex staggering to its feet, as it were. In other words, being hauled upright by the puppeteer with a stick or whatever.
It makes one wistful for the T-Rex from the Silurians, doesn't it? Which not many other things in life do. Well, I still think they should have a go at improving the effects for the Blu-ray if they can scrape together some money somehow. I think the last thing I heard anyone say, and I can't remember if it was anyone official, said if they did it, they'd be unlikely to use CGI and they'd try and use models, just better models, so that it would still be in keeping with what you could have done in 1973, which is fair enough. Other people have said that the problem with it is that there's so much intermixing of the models with live-action elements, and they'd have to be all those shots have to be rotoscoped before you could even think about replacing the dinosaurs. And I was looking out for that, and while it's true, they are the minority of the shots.
There's not that much.
Maybe
yeah,
maybe
doesn't strike me there's
10%
that
of
much
the
it.
shots, dinosaur shots, at most have DSO people in the foreground. So I don't think it's impossible. But it's easy for me to say that because I haven't got the faintest idea what will be involved. But as a complete layman, I don't think it's impossible. And I'll pay a small premium to see it done nicely because I think the story deserves it.
If they've got the separate original filmed elements, then it's fairly straightforward, isn't it? Like you say, if they've got it depends how they did it. If they did it in post-production or did it live in the studio. But if they've got like the actors in front of like a green screen or a yellow screen, which is what I tended to use for some reason, if they've got that, then you could recompose the shots easily. And if they got the original like film elements of location footage, which they superposed dinosaurs on top of, then they could again do it fairly easily. It'd be a good challenge, wouldn't it? As a as an option.
Well, I guess every year that passes, the technology to sort of make the mats and things that will be needed is getting more and more accessible and faster. And
moving back to the story itself, I'm interested in how it came about. We've sort of hinted at the idea that the dinosaurs is a remit from Barry Letts, which I think it's unlikely that Malcolm Hulk came into the office one morning and said, I know what I want to do. I want to write a dinosaur story, Barry. There's two things in life I'm obsessed with, communism and dinosaurs. Yes, the dinosaur, you can tell from the way it's structured that the dinosaurs are the given and everything else is what Malcolm wants to write about and the tension between the two. For once, the ideas mesh quite nicely, don't they? It's not just... In my head, I'd thought that perhaps they didn't, and I was expecting that the dinosaurs, as in the story itself, they are a distraction, aren't they? But I was thinking perhaps they would be in terms of the way it was written, that the first couple of episodes would be all about dinosaurs, and then would push that to one side and carry on with the story Malcolm wanted to tell. But he's very game. He keeps a bit of dinosaur action in every episode for the kiddies, while he's telling the story he really wants to. But that story itself is an environmental one, which makes me wonder how much of that came from Barry Letts as well, because environmentalism isn't normally one of Malcolm's themes. And whether or not he chose to write about it, I think we get something quite interesting, because he's looking at it from various different angles: political angle, ethical angle. And the ultimate moral of the story is that he seems to have sympathy with the environmental cause and with the characters in the story who yearn for a simpler, cleaner life on Earth. But I mean, it's not a difficult moral position to take. They're wrong to want to wipe out millions of human lives to get that. Yes, I think we can all agree with that.
It's not entirely clear why they have to either. I mean, in the end, they just go back in time, and you wonder why they couldn't just do that. Why did they have to wipe out millions of people to bring the past forward when they could just, send everyone back? But anyway, hey ho.
Yes, that's as usual.
It's politicians for you. They're doing the same with the Isle of Wight, aren't they, at the moment?
Yeah, I didn't miss any aspects of their plan, did I? What was the point of the dinosaurs as a distraction? They had a fully functioning time machine. Was bringing dinosaurs into the present... They wanted to clear London, didn't they, for some reason? Can anyone remind me why?
I think for access to the bunker and the nuclear generator,
right.
if
okay.
I recall
That's
correctly.
Fair enough.
And also, I guess, because they wanted... There was a sort of area in which people would be taken, and they wanted to make sure that everyone was in that area, and nobody else was, I suppose.
Right.
Yes, because there's a line in the last episode about when Finch doesn't turn out because he's been temporarily inconvenienced. They're talking about whether to launch it, and they say, well, he'll be within the scoop area or within the protection field.
It does sound a bit like if you were like the bad guy, at the heart of all this, at the beginning of this project, writing it out in a series of bullet points. This is what we're going to do, and you try and sell it to your colleagues. I mean, surely everyone just go, that sounds fairly implausible. But okay, fine, we'll give it a crack. Well, first of all, bring some dinosaurs in, and then we're going to go for that bunker, and then it's brave.
Bold move of dino. So there's a lot of interesting, diverse people, a diverse cast of characters involved in this plot, this coup. I mean, there's representatives of all the people who I suppose would have to involve the politicians and military. Do you think it's at all inspired by a real-life political atmosphere in the early 70s? There was that mad army chap who wanted to stage a coup, wasn't there? And I don't think his plan involved dinosaurs, but
yeah. I was going to say that this is the thing that struck me with this is really Doctor Who's answer to all of those the Parallax View, all the President's Men, those kind of Alan Pakula conspiracy thrillers. In some ways, I was thinking there's a mini genre here because there's this and there's Robot, the following season. They both go down this kind of route of like the paranoid conspiracy thriller thing, and I suppose there's a slight possible slight criticism to be levelled at this, that basically it's a conspiracy in which everyone is not so much who is involved, because everyone's involved apart from the regular characters, and then one of the regular characters is as well.
I don't know if that's supposed to be making some sort of point. Who can you trust? Nobody. Or if it's just that, as I was saying earlier, he's really trying to keep the story going, never letting it flag. So every time there's a possibility of a dull moment, he reveals that somebody new that you thought you could trust is a member. Yeah. Unless I wasn't paying attention, and I admit I was, as usual, only watching at 85%. concentrating, but some of the reveals to the audience of who is in the conspiracy seemed a bit underwhelming, mistimed.
Yes, yeah.
You just cut to a scene with the baddies, and suddenly there's somebody new stood there, and you think, "Oh, he's in it as well, is he?" And it never. Half the time, it didn't really seem to be set up the way you'd hope, including the big reveal of Mike Yates, I think. So maybe I wasn't paying attention. I think that's just maybe the sort of thing that happens when people write these things quickly, where you were just one or two drafts. So the other thing I was going to say, so we've got a variety of the top knobs of society organising this conspiracy. The people they're bringing with them, who are the people that they, I'm not entirely sure why, have decided to pretend that they're on a spaceship heading to a new planet. New Earth, by the way. Did you catch that?
Yes, yeah.
They are a bunch of middle-class idiots, basically.
Is this where Doug Adams gets his idea from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
I hadn't thought of that. So
you what?
I was just going to say I hadn't thought of that one, but there's a certain resemblance to Enemy of the World in here as well.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And these middle-class idiots, I think this is something that Malcolm Hulke must have enjoyed writing. He seems, as a bit of a class warrior himself, I mean, it's quite a mild-mannered class criticism for a paid-up member of the Communist Party that these middle-class people are well-meaning but extraordinarily gullible. But he has a lot of fun with the scenes where we first meet them, the beardy writer and who's does Carmen Silvera play? Some sort of minor aristocrat.
She's a minor aristo of some sort, isn't she?
Now they're interesting. There's nobody working class that seems to join their cause. I don't know why that is.
Later on, there's maybe a guy towards right at the very end who's sort of a bit less plummy than the other ones, but yeah, it's mainly.
Well, yes, relatively, but still in terms of 1970s TV, he's clearly still middle class. The only working class people are the looters at the beginning.
Yes.
And you knew that because they had flat caps and Cockney accents, of course.
Doesn't Pertwee have fun? I think he gets a couple of different moments to do funny voices here.
He does indeed, and it made me think it's funny that they kind of left it quite late. They kind of left it quite late in his run to let him go loose on the silly voices, considering that was what he was.
I think when you watch it through in order, he mellows. Never mind his hair getting more and more bouffant each season. Yeah, we know. But I think his characterization mellows so much. If you juxtapose a story from season 7 with one from 11, the contrast is extraordinary. There's loads of moments where he's written this. His doctor's still saying the same paternalistic, slightly harsh things to people, but rather than barking them as he used to, he's now saying it with a wink and a nod, and he's turned into cuddly Uncle John.
That's fascinating. Yeah,
it's a bit more like Spearhead. Spearhead does an awful lot of that in it, and then almost immediately it's completely excised, and this is sort of when it starts to come back again.
Well, there's a whole discussion in itself. That they get a certain characterization in his first story, which they then lose and have to find again, which is exactly what they do with Tom Baker. You've got the late period Baker and Robot, which then disappears, and then for 3 years, and then gradually, it's gone quiet.
No, I agree with you. I think it's quite right. But these are actors who are playing the same part for many years, aren't they? 5 and 7 respectively. So I guess they evolve as actors and people as well, and so the writing may stay fairly similar, but how they actually bring it to life will change. Tom Baker's very different, isn't he, in his first 3 seasons to the rest. But you're right, that first story is a bit more like how he is later.
I have just thought of a possible explanation. Spearhead from Space and Robot are both famously produced by the previous production team.
Yeah.
So maybe the incoming producer, Derek Sherwin, cast Pertwee.
Yes.
And possibly he thought he was going to play it funny, so they wrote it more that way, and then and then they changed it from story 2 onwards. Same thing could well have happened with Terence Dicks and Barry Letts casting Tom Baker, thinking he'll play it this way, and then from story 2 onwards, Philip Hinchcliffe had a completely different idea. Apologies to everybody out there who already knew that I've only just discovered it. I'm so sorry that you're seeing me learn these things in real time. It's painful, isn't it?
With Pertwee especially, I think there's also the issue that he was famously fairly I believe he was famously fairly insecure about doing a straight acting job when he took the job, and so therefore his instinct was to keep it more buttoned down at the stars, and then once he, as he became aware that it was a hit, and he relaxed more into it. And of course, this is the first episode where we have the Who-mobile, which is another of pertwee, another pertwee indulgence being. Although I guess we'd had the quad bikes or whatever in or the trikes earlier, hadn't we, as well?
What was that? What was that Land Rover chase all about around Wimbledon
that's
Common?
that's the only really bad padding-y bit, isn't it? I think. Reminded me a bit of the bit with Tyler in Three Doctors where he runs around for 5 minutes and then comes back and says, "Well, that was a waste of time, wasn't it?"
Before we move on, is there anything else to say about the comparisons with our current deserted environment, or?
Well, where are they putting those 8 million people is what I want to know. I mean, they seem to have evacuated the whole of London, but that's a lot of people.
Leeds, presumably. We certainly know that's the plan later.
Well, Harrogate's where they've taken... I mean,
What's
the other
left?
thing I was going to say, as naturally as a Yorkshire nationalist, you've got to say, well, finally, government's in Harrogate, so there's something. But yeah, no, it does. It feels like... I mean, who would want to go into the details of it? But it feels like that's a lot of people to shift around.
Thought-provoking.
To be fair, I mean, I guess it's for the budget and the production context of making it in the 1970s. I guess having a deserted London was a lot easier logistically than having the kinds of lockdown London that you get in Turn Left, isn't it? Where you have an awful lot of extras, a lot more complexity. It's simpler just to kind of go completely the opposite direction, have it completely deserted.
And they do a surprisingly good job. I mean, they must have got up extraordinarily early in the morning because you get some pretty impressively deserted streets. Yeah,
just like in Dalek Invasion of Earth, same sort of thing, isn't it?
And that rather bizarre drum.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned turn left, then, didn't they, Richard?
Yeah. Look, there's a couple of things I want to say before, but then we should get onto it. So, so interestingly, we get John Bennett in this one.
We do.
Yes.
And before we get all that controversy about him yellowing up as Li Sen Chang.
Just disgraceful that he's khakiying it up in this story. He's clearly not an actual army officer.
Right, okay. Moving on. So the Tyrannosaurus. So why don't the bullets work? I mean, it's only flesh and blood. I mean, feels a bit surprising.
Good point. Yeah, well done. I'm glad you saved that.
True, but I suppose it's out of that monster movie type of like King Kong, and the Chewits monster, which the T-Rex always reminds me of the Chewits monster a bit.
So also with Unit, isn't it just the standard thing that the bullets never work?
Yeah,
that's also true. Yes.
The poor guys, they fire away. Today it'll work. No, never does.
So also the space thing. I mean, it's a brilliant twist. But also it's undercut immediately in the sense that in the same shot you see the space bit, you also see Sarah with her bandage on. So they're obviously giving the audience a clue straight away that what the resolution of that's going to be. So that's quite interesting.
Yes, I think.
Did anyone else spot Jeremy Corbyn having a cameo on the spaceship?
Yeah, I'll have to look out for him.
He did the right thing in the end and stood down as well, didn't he?
And Benton, I want to say just wanted to say Benton, I think it's a fantastic role for him in this. And after being a bit cruel about John Levine in the last time we looked at him, I thought he did a really good job with it.
He had that great line about punch. It's not every day you get to punch a general. And then the Brigadier's still listening. That was fantastic. That was a great bit of scripting and acting as well. That was really good. It's a good strong unit. I know some of the soldiers are looking a bit old and they can't shoot straight. But the main unit family, it's another strong unit story as well for them.
Yes, I do like the bit where he lets the Doctor knock him out. Although I thought it was a bit ironic that having so go on do your Venusian what's name on me, and then the Doctor very gently knocks him out, and then still lets him apparently fall flat forward on his face.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bang, isn't it?
Doesn't catch him or anything like that. He just goes down like a sack of potatoes, just vertically forward.
Yeah.
There's another. I think there's a scene with the Brigadier and the Doctor outside the tube station where the Brigadier throws a bomb and then he yanks the Doctor down behind the car. That's a good little comedy, bit of slapstick as well.
Yeah,
that was really nice.
Oh, there's some very good deadpan stuff, and Nick's got some good stuff in this as well. Though you get that little bit at the start of episode 5 where you're meant to be doubting him as well by this point, or at least about whether or not he really believes that the Doctor could be a wrong 'un, which doesn't make any sense given the context of the past 3-4 years. But dramatically it works that Benson is allowed to be the one that we know is reliable.
Just last things about this, and then we should move on. Go on, Simon.
Pertwee even picks a lock the old-fashioned way instead of waving the sonic screwdriver around as well. Take note, kids.
I'll quickly say that there's a line in episode 2 where John Pertwee's Doctor says, "I'm reviewing the situation," and I thought now it's clear why they wanted Ron Moody for that part.
I think I'll go and think that out again. I know what I was going to... I've just found it. I've been looking down my notes, waiting for the thing that I was going to say. The end, the final payoff. Now, this is coming off the back of last series with Orphan 55, and seeing Pertwee's little speech at the end of this, which is just like, God, that third Doctor is a social justice warrior, isn't he? Some of his little rant, but yes, I just thought, okay, Pertwee gets away with it. And there are plenty of other flaws. I think the main issue with the NU Orphan 55 is that speech is not earned by coming at the end. It
comprised 2/3 of the episode. That's why.
Yes, yeah, and it's not earned by coming at the end of a bloody good story.
No.
Having said which, the book, of course, that was the other thing I did want to give a shout out to. Because that was what brought me to this story in the first place. It was a childhood favourite. Again, very well thumbed, and obviously being a Mac Hulk adaptation, it has well more fun with it than perhaps the standard Turner Sticks transliteration of the screenplay. And I love that final scene with the Ezekiel and abandoned foils. When they go into foils. Yeah, so I was disappointed that didn't happen at the end of the story, but you can't damn it for that.
So, Turn Left, from Series 4, written by Russell T Davies, directed by Graham Harper, and recorded presumably at the same time as Midnight. So, who wants to kick us off on that?
I'll just say I think it's excellent. I think it's Russell T Davies at the top of his game. I think it's the Doctor Who rebooted series really hitting its stride. Great sort of event TV, lots of energy, lots of plot. It's a real tour de force of like Russell T Davies' sort of best hits, really. It kind of like picks out loads of key moments from his stories and also foreshadows things to come around Donna, what happened to her, and so on. I remember watching it at the time. I watched it again recently, and it's the same. It's just a very satisfying, solid, strong TV drama. So, top marks from me.
It's certainly all that, isn't it? Isn't it interesting how some of the, what do we call them? I suppose the Doctor-lite episodes, but also just the episodes which had unusual production constraints turn out to be some of the best in the modern era, presumably because it encouraged the writers to be more inventive. And this is one of my absolute favourites. Interesting, yeah. I was thinking, a bit like that Mike Yates reveal, it has more power because it's paying off things we've seen over the previous 4 years. Like you said, greatest hits of Russell T Davies, but it's not just revisiting them in a corny way. The idea of revisiting these moments and changing one minor aspect, i.e. the Doctor's not there, having set up that idea, that we then see progress through them, and things get worse and worse and worse. It's like a sandpit in IT terms, isn't it? We set up this parallel universe where we can just test that idea for 45 minutes, and the point is thoroughly proven by the end of it that without Doctor Who, we're buggered.
The working title.
I was just going to agree and say, well, this is probably a story that they could only do knowing the series was absolutely at its peak of popularity and in its revival, and they just happened to, possibly more by luck than judgment, that they put this out at that precise moment. And apparently, looking at the stats, this was like the fourth most watched programme of the week that it aired, and that was Doctor Who's record in terms of as a weekly. I think Titanic had done better, and then the following 2 weeks it only built further. Yeah, because it's so reliant on the fact that all of these things that it's referencing are moments that are popular culture moments that everyone, enough of the people who've been watching telly for the past 4 years are going to actually remember. The rhinos on the moon and and all of this stuff. So it's a brilliant idea, but my God, is it dark? I just thought that's the only other thing is, God, this is it's the fact that this is done in 2008 was a different time, wasn't it? And now it's, as having not watched it since, I've always thought of it fondly, but I don't think I've watched it since shortly after transmission, probably a repeat. And now, given that I deliberately sidestepped years and years, much as I love Russell's work, I just thought I cannot cope with this.
I hadn't thought of
when
that.
It was on.
You're absolutely right. Years and years is that same idea extended to 6 or 8 hours, isn't it?
Yeah. It doesn't, and it's brilliant. It's and again, it's very Russell in that he always gets, despite the fact he's doing this big dramatic story, he's also got the personal and the silly moments, and just the things that letter writers would get would just have one tone throughout, and this manages to balance it so well.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely, it's the range, and therefore it's really sort of very human, because human beings are all sad and happy and cross and all at the same time about a number of different things, and he captures all that human condition, I think, in his script so well. There's one of my best moments in it is it's sort of like 2/3 of the way through, and Donna Noble returns home, and the whole sequence plays out just as a close-up of her mum in the foreground, and Donna's out of focus behind, talking about, I tried to get a job, I couldn't get a job, and her mum's just staring into the distance, not responding until she says, I suppose I've always been a disappointment to you, haven't I? And she just says, and she walks out of frame. Brilliant, so understated. It's all it's just about character and relationships. You got moments like that, tiny little directed moments, and then big broad canvas, story worlds, lots of action. It's that spread that makes it work so well. Very clever.
It is eerily prescient. I mean, not for the alien invasions, but the whole kind of England for the English thing showing its head, that we've seen a little bit of in the last few years.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point.
And I guess it's the counterpoint to Stephen Moffat. Just this once, everybody dies.
Yeah.
And of course, it's another Yorkshire reference in this, but not in a cosy way. Well, it's cozy. It's cozy in the sense there's lots of people living in the houses, but it's not much fun.
I guess when you say just as long as everybody dies, but actually they don't die, do they? Because you could argue that they kind of unwind that timeline.
Yeah.
But yes,
indeed,
people never seem to die, apart from Adric. Adric is gone.
Yeah. So, Rose. I mean, we get Billie Piper back, and unfortunately, she seems to have Dick Emery's teeth in, which is speaking. I don't know what's happened there, but I mean, I think it comes off fine in the end, but it's just a little bit. She seems to be sort of speaking through her teeth for some reason.
I think you're talking Botox, Richard.
No, I don't think
She said she had trouble finding the character again, and I think we should give her the benefit of the doubt. And it was just having been doing other work for 2 years. You know, because she isn't Rose Tyler. It was a characterisation.
Yeah.
And there's quite a lot involved. It wasn't just thinking your way into Rose Tyler, it was thinking your way into the physicality and exactly how she spoke and what her shape and size her teeth were. And it takes a bit of effort, even for the most highly trained actor, to find that particular mouth space again after a long break.
I must apologise for bringing the tone of the conversation down.
Is this? Are you implying this is like John Actor from the Fast Show? This part requires 4 hours in makeup.
I wasn't implying anything. I just went off on one. Sorry.
No,
I genuinely think she had, like she said,
no, I think so
she
too.
had trouble finding the character. And
I love Bernard Cribbins in this. I think he's fantastic.
He is. Yes, this is his big moment as well, isn't it? Really, and this is what it's been leading up to. I say it with hindsight, and it wasn't leading up to it. That's not why he was cast, but he gets to do some rather more serious stuff than just being funny old Wilf.
He's a very believable actor, isn't he? His performance is very believable. And you can watch them all. I mean, the cast is excellent in this, isn't it? I mean, it's flawless.
Yes,
it's such a great lineup.
And Jacqueline King is fantastic. Well, that's the thing. I think for all that, it's really just that first scene with Billy that's with Rose that absolutely you just think, what the hell's going on? But then when she turns up later, but it's partly that you've got over it, and partly that it just seems more measured. By the time she appears for the second time, you kind of forget about it.
The guy playing the Italian as well, I think. Good, nice performances.
Yeah, very.
I say Italian. I think that's right, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, the lovely Donna calls him Mussolini, I think, at one point.
Right. No.
Just to get him to calm down. But sorry, did I say about Jacqueline King as Donna's mum?
Did I say how lovely she is? Have I ever said that?
No, of course you've worked with her. Yes.
Superb behind the scenes insights. I've worked with her twice, Giles, and don't you forget it. No, she is so nice. You wouldn't believe it. What an astonishing performance that is. You'd think she's a right old ratbag, and she's she's gorgeous. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, thank you for that glimpse behind the curtain.
Yeah, well, there's plenty more where that came. Do you want to know what they had on in the buffet for lunch both days I was with them?
No.
Yes, because we haven't heard enough about lunch and Big Finish over
Giant prawns.
What? Like the invisible enemy?
Hang on, that was 2 weeks ago. Prawn wrapped in ganglion.
Have we really run out of things here?
I would love to say more about this, but unfortunately I didn't get round to watching it. And I know that's pathetic because it's only 45 minutes long. I thought my memories might be strong enough, and they aren't. They're extremely vague.
It's funny.
Does everybody love Donna Noble?
Oh, blimey! I forgot you were looking forward to tearing her a new one, weren't you? Yes, I bloody love Donna Noble.
I just don't worship at the Church of Tate, and I find Donna Noble thoroughly unappealing. I know it's acting, and some people think, oh, that's such a grotesque comedy character, and oh, she's so annoying. But yeah, equally to someone else, she is comedy grotesque and annoying, and that detracted from my enjoyment all the way through that season, unfortunately.
You went in as not a fan of Catherine Tate as a comic actress, and her other
I've seen her acting in other things, doing straight roles, and she's been great, but I never really got into a comedy show. And then just her casting, I thought, that for me was when Russell T Davies jumped the metaphorical shark. I just didn't understand the casting. I know that Doctor Who tries to be edgy and reinvent itself and throw away the mould of casting young actresses in the role of companions. They'd had a long run of those, and I thought, oh, they're trying something different here. But week by week, I just found the character so annoying, and you just wanted her to get killed after 5 minutes in each episode I watched. I just didn't. I think
that was just you, Simon.
I feel so sorry for you. I mean, week after week, I was thinking, what an astonishing character. They've taken... I wasn't particularly thinking, my goodness, how extraordinary Catherine Tate can act, because I had no reason to believe she couldn't. But she did show new depths to her talent week after week, but also they were matched, or rather she was matching, new depths to the character that Russell was giving her. And he was clearly relishing exploring what he could do. I mean, after the first couple of episodes, she gets thrown in some very tragic situations, doesn't she?
There's that sequence at the end of the Fires of Pompeii, I think, where she does that really, really well. I can't imagine anyone doing that better, really. And in this episode, there's a fantastic sequence where she's about to go back in time, and they're powering up the TARDIS device, whatever it is, and then she's clarifying with Rose that she's going to be okay and she'll be with the Doctor, and she just looks at her and says, "I'm sorry," and you can, that works really well. I think she really nails it.
No,
I think that's the genius of Donna Noble. You said how you've seen Catherine Tate play it completely straight elsewhere, and that you were happy with her there. Well, I think the genius is that we get the best of both worlds. She can be extraordinarily funny right from the off with all those amazing mime sequences and partners in crime.
Yeah, that's when she won me over.
But she has more moments of quiet tragedy than almost any other companion, considering she's only there for a year.
Unfortunately, overindulged and too annoying for me, unfortunately. Sack of potatoes in a square hole.
Well, we'll just have to chalk that down as a minority view, Simon, but well expressed.
One of the things I just want to say about this episode is, I think it works. We talked at the beginning about how it's a Doctor-lite episode, so I think that definitely plays its favour, because it is more inventive, if you like, because it is telling a different sort of story. I like how the Doctor is absent for most of it, and you really want him to come back and save the day. And so when he does come back at the end, and he just walks through the curtain and says hello, it really works as a nice moment. But the only thing that mars it for me is just before that, as the creature falls off her back, there's a montage sequence of unwinding all the horrible things that have happened, and that includes a shot of David Tennant in that sequence, and that always annoyed me, because it's like, we haven't seen him for about 30 minutes, and we're about to see him again walk through the door, so don't show us his face now. It kind of slightly takes away from that reveal, I think. But it's a well-paced, well-told story.
Sure.
It's interesting on a similarly meta level. Just casting back to Invasion of the Dinosaurs, one of the things I had a note on was just that the Brigadier's appearance at, I think, the start of episode 2, when he turns up and rescues the Doctor, works on almost a similarly meta kind of level.
Yes.
The characters are as relieved to see him as we are that the running around not being believed by soldiers bit of the story is over, and now we can get on with the next bit, because it's just at the point where it started to test our patience with the martial law kind of element of that story. Yeah, it's funny how these things work. Getting back to Turn Left, and the other thing that I really like about it is the fact that not only does it unite all of Doctor Who in the Russell T Davies era, but it all hinges on Sarah Jane Adventures and the Trickster. Or it's one of the one of the Trickster's Brigade. I was always a bit disappointed not to see the Trickster himself turn up at some point in the RTD era in Doctor Who, because I thought it was a great idea. Whether or not it really was the Black Guardian, I remember there was sort of talk about that at the time, or speculation. But it's a clever idea, just feeding off possibilities. But obviously he decided that was too good an idea to leave to the junior spin-off, as it were. Having had a couple of great stories that they, probably the best and most interesting Sarah Jane Adventure stories were the ones that involved the Trickster and the sort of might have beens of Sarah Jane's life, and pull the same stunt here.
It's interesting to ponder if there really are moments like that in your life. Where it's totally binary, or whether at some point, things might caught themselves up again. But I guess there must be some
sliding doors moments.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a fictional conceit. But what a spoil sport.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I saw a brief foray onto Twitter a couple of days ago. I did see a tweet someone mentioning that it was 10 years to the day since Bigot Gate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the leaking of the microphone. The off.
Yeah.
Just some bigoted woman.
Hot mic incident with Gordon Brown that you could arguably say, was that a turn left moment? Because that's possibly.
Well, sure that would be a turn right moment. Wouldn't it?
Yes.
You win.
I think in answer to that, I don't believe it. I think it was that was happening anyway.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Well,
it was interesting that I happened to see it pointed out, and I thought it was the thing that leapt to mind when we said, do these things really happen?
We're almost back to the fascinating discussion we had the other week. Do you remember when I babbled on for about a quarter of an hour on fixed points in time?
Yes.
Erroneously, apologies viewers, I said that they were invented in waters of Mars, and of course they start... Where do they start? Here?
Pompeii,
I think.
That's right, you told... So, if you want to get science fiction-y about it, it could be that some of these turn left moments, some of these sliding doors moments, will be... If you don't turn left at this junction, it'll get you at the next junction or the one after that, If it's not this tube train with the sliding doors, it'll be the next one, because that's a fixed point in time. And time will catch up with you if you try and cheat it.
Is that called Final Destination?
Oh, I haven't seen any of them. Is that what that's all about? Oh, yes, it is. Yes, I know just enough to know what you mean. That's death coming for you.
Yes.
Yes, and if you dodge out the falling piano, it'll...
Exactly, but the train will come and get you, whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
But it could be the same thing, though. Same concept.
Yeah, I'm slightly disappointed to
Life
find
and
out
death.
what I thought was a really sophisticated science fiction concept has been explored most fully in a series of schlock horror films. maybe there's space for a proper, pure Chris Rachel Bidmid sort of hard sci-fi version. I shall start making notes. You carry on while I'm making notes for that.
Well, he's still out there if you want to have a word with him.
No, he's not writing it. I am.
There is, if you want to get into this, and this is the point at which I stake my claim to thinking I might write something along these lines. There's a very interesting. I've never seen anyone work out the maths for it or anything like that, but I think, or maybe it's something I actually just dreamt up myself. But this whole, the many worlds theory of quantum mechanics, and the idea that there's all these.
I knew you were going to mention quantum mechanics. I bloody knew it. Sorry.
Multiple universes. Like every choice.
I saw you put your Dr. Science hat on, and I thought, I know where it's going now.
Every choice gives rise to a whole new universe. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be interesting if this was kind of powered by entropy, and like the closing down of choices is what powers the generation of these things.
Oh, I got shivered down my back then. What a great idea.
And I was thinking, because it's kind of spins into what the Weeping Angels feed on, and what the Trickster and his minions appear to feed on as well. This closing off of possibilities and feeding on potentialities.
So, just in terms of linear time, as we approach the end of the universe, free will would start to get away from us. Slowly but surely, but inevitably, because there would no longer be enough energy left in the universe for us to be able to make choices.
Yes, yeah.
It wouldn't be able to enact the choices we want to make. I think maybe that's either the best idea anyone's ever had, or it's just a single short story that will be overlooked and forgotten.
Yes, yeah.
Depends who writes it. You do it, Giles.
I'll do it, and it'll be the short story.
You should send it into the Reader's Digest. They've got a page for people like you.
So parallels between the two stories. I mean, I guess we've already mentioned one, which is that what we see in Turn Left in the sort of lead setting is the obverse of what we're seeing in Invasion of Dinosaurs in London. That that's where all the displaced people have gone.
I think in a way, Invasion of the Dinosaurs is plot driven, and the focus is on the plot. Whereas you could argue that turn left, the focus is on the characters, and it's how the characters are without the Doctor. So one, you get empty streets and the dinosaurs, and the other, I'm stretching it apart a little bit to make a point.
Yeah.
So it's not as clear as this. And the other is more about the people in the streets and the close-ups of the people and the relationships between the people. I mean, it's not quite as clear cut as that, obviously. But
I like it. We're not going to get better than that.
That was very good.
It's interesting considering that Dinos is a Malcolm Holt gig. That ironically Turn Left is the one that actually goes into the economics, goes into a bit of, if not quite Marxist dialectic, but it looks a bit at the economic consequences and the real world consequences of what would happen in this situation.
Yeah.
Whereas Dinos doesn't really do that. The people are gone, and we don't worry anymore about the logistics of where they've gone or anything like that. And obviously, we're currently living through the issue of the logistics of what happens when you get some enormously disruptive scenario like that.
Yeah, maybe Malcolm was ahead of his time. None of his stories really get the chance to go into detail in the sort of areas that would, I guess, he'd really want to. If he was given free rein. Maybe Terence wouldn't let him. No, it's just the girl tied to the railway tracks. Sorry, I've no idea what that was supposed to be. That was my Barry Letts. If I ever work out Terence, I'll tell you.
Ironically, we spent a lot of time talking about the realization of the dinosaurs, the monsters of that first story, whereas in the second story, the monster is invisible. On the back of Donna. It's ironic, isn't it, that maybe if the dinosaurs had been invisible, we might have.
Invisible dinosaurs, yes, yeah.
Yes, genius.
Thousands of them, sir.
Yes.
Well, talking of, it doesn't quite. It relates to other sort of modern Who issues. It's interesting that I read regarding the title of episode 1 of Invasion of the Dinosaurs, that the whole business of them changing it, and then it got spoiled by the Radio Times, the fact it was dinosaurs. Apparently the Radio Times blew the plot, to which Terence Dicks said, well, they were law unto themselves, and certainly that seemed to happen a couple of times with Russell, although I think was Dalek Sec that they were offered the chance.
Big one that, oh dear.
Were they offered the chance for cover, and they threw away?
I think Russell's often his own worst enemy in that regard, because when you got the chance to promote the show, you really want to do that. I mean, I'm not convinced that not knowing that thing was going to turn out was going to make that story that much better anyway.
No.
But yeah, it was a shame. I mean, certainly the this year when we had those really kind of heart-stopping reveals in Series 12 that we knew nothing about them coming up, it was quite impressive, and it's the first time I can remember that in a very long time of getting a complete shock.
You're about to say since Earthshock episode.
Oh well, yes, yeah. Probably was.
Yes.
That's what I wanted you to ask Jeremy when you were on, actually, whether or not they had advance warning of anything that was happening in season 19, and whether or not they knew about the Cybermen coming in Earthshock.
Well, next time you line me up with a guest, you can send me the questions as well. Yeah. Well, but I guess that's a good example of JNT sort of going against his typical, which would have been to try and get the publicity, but he realises that it serves the story much better for it to be a shot.
Yeah, it's always a matter of finding a balance, isn't it? Because in the recent series, there was arguably they might have got more bums on seats if they had teased, if they'd shown a bit more ankle. With regard to the fact there was going to be some potentially mind-blowing stuff coming up, but
well, they sort of teased it a bit, didn't they? Okay, so is that it? Any other last thoughts, or should we let you go on your way?
That's been good. I've enjoyed it.
Okay, well, thanks.
Nice to have you along.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for gracing our humble podcast.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
That
It's
kind
been
of
really
thing.
good. I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much. All
Yeah,
right.
thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Nice to hear you.
Cheers.
Yeah, well,
Thank
I've got
you.
to finish
you.
painting this room.
bye for now.
Oh dear.
Not too long. Yeah.
See you guys.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Good luck with your work. Poor bloke's got to work now.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I just give a shout out to whoever did the write up for Invasion of the Dinosaurs on Wikipedia for a complete dick move in the opening paragraphs? and I quote, set in London, the serial involves Member of Parliament Sir Charles Grover and General Finch conspiring to roll back the Earth and return it to a time when it was untouched by humanity. I mean, spoilers. If that's
That can't be accidental.
no,
Oh,
the only
dear.
thing it doesn't mention is Mike Yates. But it's just like,
I meant to say that I thought. I mean, the only thing I didn't get around to mentioning is were there too many characters, because they've got a lot of good actors, but because they're good actors, it's more conspicuous that they don't all get much to do. Like Martin Jarvis, in particular, very little. But again, I suppose, like Andrew was saying, it's not so much about the characters, that story is. It's more plotty. So he needs a constant supply of traitors to fuel the conspiracy.
But I do like the characters though, because each of them has a reason to be there. I mean, they're not just, as in some of the stories in this era, a bunch of people with kind of ill discerned motivation. You've got either people who really believe in the movement, or you've got people who are hoping to gain something from it. You've got the disgraced scientist who's, well, I don't know what he hopes to win back by this, but he's obviously thoroughly naffed off with everyone else. And so, yeah, you do kind of get to see that each of them has a slightly different motivation, but a reason to be there.
yes, yeah, that's what's nice. And their particular ethics about how they will do things. That Grover is always remains that his ethics won't. He's not going to shed blood over this. Yeah, quite how he reconciles that with the actual ethos of the master plan itself.
Yeah, I think. I mean, maybe I did it a disservice because he doesn't have to see anyone die. They just sort of get erased. They never have existed. He's almost able to fool himself into thinking that's not the same thing.
Yes.
So
Typical politician.
and also Ruth. I mean, she is. In theory, she's one of these idealistic types that are on the spaceship, and yet she doesn't have any problem in bumping off Sarah if that's what it takes.
Oh my God! Damn it! I wish I had made my notes when I was watching it, because that's one of the things I was going to bring up. Yeah,
well, we can bring it up now.
I mean, with Malcolm Hulk being a very political animal, one of the questions is, does just in passing, do the ends justify the means? And she seems like such a nice man. Lady Carmen Silvera, a nice man. She's very nice and calm and reasonable.
Seems like a nice boy.
But I mean, all the stuff on the spaceship, which I didn't really talk about much, involves what's the room that they get sent to for education, re-education?
The reminder room.
The reminder room.
Yes,
terrific. That's I mean, we've seen that many, many times, haven't we? In these sorts of stories, reminder. That's a bit of euphemism, political double talk.
it's a very nice.
She may need another spell in the reminder room, and if the reminder room isn't enough, she's a disruptive element. She'll just have to go to avoid bringing down the whole community, spreading her seditious ideas, or anti-seditious. She's not seditious enough.
Worthy of Orwell, I think that reminding. She needs.
Yeah,
She
very.
needs reminding.
So, like I say, the constant spread of ideas. We get the conspiracy stuff and an Orwellian setup, but from the point of view of people who think they're doing good. I mean, in terms of stories where the villains aren't just twiddling their moustaches, they genuinely think they're the heroes of their own story. This is a prime example of that.
Yes, yeah.
Apart from the general, they do all seem fairly calm and reasonable, don't they? Including the middle-class idiots who aren't on their B-arc. And they no doubt think that the millions of people who will never have existed when they roll back time are not collateral damage. They won't see it that way. They'll see it that they've done them a favour, not having to live their miserable lives in this polluted earth. So it really is one of pushing the idea of.
Yeah, I mean, we don't. I guess we don't quite understand what they're going to do when they get there. I mean, are they going to have to start out with just, axes? And I mean, how far are they rolling technology back?
It would be nice if they'd had that discussion, if the Doctor had a chance to confront those people and say, well, just what is it you think you're going to be doing when you get there, Because I don't imagine these people, they've obviously come from very comfortable homes. If they'd gone the full Douglas Adams, then they would be they would be taking the working classes with them. They would be taking people to do the hard work with them. They're not going to be... I think they're going to be in for a rude awakening, or would have been, if they'd arrived. Without the servants and the help.
Yeah. When did the good life land on us? Stuff like that. I was just thinking of the whole self-sufficiency.
Maybe? 75, 76, something like that.
Well, I guess that slightly like middle-class hippie self-sufficiency thing was...
It is.
Maybe in the... Again, we don't get any hint of it in the story, but just thinking
we've got it in the Green Death. It's like the third series of Reggie Perrin.
Oh, of course, yes.
With
Better Life of Reggie Perrin, yeah.
I guess it's like people just generally going off to kibbutzes or whatever. It's a bit survivors-y. Survivors is not people who've chosen this lifestyle, but it's exploring. There was something in the air, wasn't there?
Yes, yeah.
Fernando.
Well, certainly you've had all that, the environmentalism boom of the early 70s.
Yeah.
So that is what I like about it. It's Malcolm Hulke's, whatever inspired him to write it, it's his take from his political angle, rather than a purely ideological angle. It's this environmental idea is all very well, but take a step back. And I think he's personifying the problems he sees with it in terms of these people having a badly thought through plan. Overcomplicated, too many dinosaurs, and they haven't really thought about who's going to be doing the hard work when they get there, and who suffers for their own ideological purity. But no economics, which is where we started with this digression.
Good. No, I think that's good. That's another sort of 5 minutes I can slot somewhere into.
I'm annoyed at myself for not making enough proper notes, because I found it absolutely fascinating, both in terms of what we got and what we didn't get.
Yeah. No, I mean, I absolutely agree with your assessment, which was that it was 6 episodes that didn't feel like 6 episodes. I mean, it felt faster and fresher than some 4 parts that did plod around and get nowhere. There's a lot in it.
And that was something it seemed like a genuine discovery for me. I didn't feel like I'd ever heard anyone refer to it in those terms before. But really, even compared to some of Hulk's other stuff, like Colony in Space stories, where which feel more like 15 episodes.
Yes, as you say, it's funny how there are various things that you think are cliffhanger worthy that are slightly thrown away, and I'm wondering whether this is the thing that... Didn't Terence... Is that in... I can't remember where that is, but someone, I think it might have been Terence, espousing the dramatic W of theory of writing Doctor Who, where you sort of build to you start big, slow down for a bit, and then have a big peak in the middle, and I was thinking, well, this feels like and the fact that the whole T-Rex breaking loose of its chains thing isn't a cliffhanger completely caught me by surprise, having not watched this for a few years. I was thinking, well, surely that's a cliffhanger. And then in episode 1, it's funny that the pterodactyl attack is not, we have that, and then we still then wait for the build up of the dinosaur cliffhanger, and the way that the first episode is set up with them. We have lots of references to, we've had another sighting of one of them. It's just like it's like a Terry Nation Dalek story, isn't it? And have lots of people running around referring to them.
Right.
Although at least in this case they did actually try and take the dinosaurs out of the title. Unlike Dalek stories.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a moment that's sort of halfway through episode 4 where the Doctor's found the underground base, and he's been down into it, and you think, well, how can we get another 2.5 episodes out of this story? And yet, I mean, the Land Rover scene accepted. There's not an awful lot of runaround. I mean, there are 2 or 3 nice little plot twists that keep us going until the final denouement 2 episodes later.
I don't know. Cut that bit out. It's irrelevant. Unless you think it's incredibly perceptive and fascinating, in which case keep it in.
Go on, Paul.
What? No, I was just I'm just going to butter Andrew up. I've decided not to.
No.
Is this actual dialogue from Turned Left in your usual style?
It is.
Oh, right. Okay.
I mean, well, it always is. I mean, because why would I bother to write anything new
no.
when most of it,
When it
so
writes
so
itself,
most of it is.